Guys, welcome to another episode of the Truth Bump. And we're going to pick up something different today. I want to talk to you guys about the topic of balance. It is spoken about quite a bit in the WTF experience. But I just want to give you some more relatable, practical, reference points, etc. The normal things that I do. In relation to that topic. Now, of course, the balance that we experience in life is something we experience in duality. So we have the concept of oneness and we have the concept of duality. Now, oneness is the two coming together and being one, or oneness is you not seeing where one of the two begins and ends, if you like. It's not two different things, because sometimes in people's minds they're like, oh, I've got duality and then we've got oneness. Well, no, they're actually the same thing. It's where, duality is when you're experiencing the drop of the ocean, and oneness is when you remove the barriers of the drop and you realize it's all the same and it's only one, and it's only one ocean. So first thing I wanted to kind of just put out there is don't make it into this, right or wrong thing, or better or worse thing, or good or evil, or any of that jazz, because that's already, an interpretation of what's being shared in duality only. So what I'd like to do is expand your mind and expand your view, and for you to see that duality is the same as the one, and that. Now, it's a different experience of the one. I get it. Your experience of duality is different. But if you see both sides of duality, in other words, the balance, the equilibrium, then you see it's the same. And there is no right or wrong. It's not about better or worse, higher or lower. All that disappears or becomes irrelevant. Because it's the same. Yes, it's lower. Yes, it's higher, but it's the same being lower or higher. It's not different. And I know at first when you hear that, it's, your intellectual mind is trying to wrap its mind around that and go, but there is right and there is wrong and there is better. I mean, this is better. This is worse. But when you're only looking at it one-sided, it's if you expand your view, which is my intention with you today, it's two different sides of the same coin. It's the same, just two different sides of the same coin. It's different waves of the same ocean. So, and it really comes down to your perspective and the space that you're viewing or you're perceiving from, that determines the difficulty you may experience in wrapping your mind around, but that is wrong, that is right, that is good, that is bad, that is better, that is worse. I'd rather have more money than not have less money. Like and of course your mind's already kicking and going, well, I would rather have more money than not, Well, it's got, having more money, it's got its pros and cons. Having less money, it's got its pros and cons, and both are the same or different side of the same coin. It's not better. And so anyway, I won't go on about that. Let's just chat about. I want to chat with you guys today about the balance and the perspective of how it impacts you personally, rather than a global, worldly, universal balance. We can reflect on that as well, but. To make this practical for you, I would love to be able to bring this back to yourself, and bringing that balance, or how balance plays a role in your everyday life. So, if it's okay, we can stay with that, because the mind sometimes goes, but there is right and wrong. I mean, look what's going on in the world, and and we can do that. I can do a whole session about that too. But if you want to be able to make it applicable to yourself, so you can then live it and learn to surf the wave of balance rather than getting dumped, if I can use that metaphor, dumped by the wave. Because that's what when you don't know how it works, your awareness is limited around balance, you are continuously getting dumped. Like it's like you're continuously going up and down, and you just go, well, that's life. It's up and down. You go up, you go down. What goes up must come down. And but that's not really the case. I mean, it is the case. That's exactly the case for the balance. It's equal good and bad, or right or wrong, or it's equal all those experiences. But a mind that has transcended balance doesn't need to go up and down. So again, what I'm referring to, again, a lesson that I give in the WTF experience, I talk about the seesaw. So again, we talk about this in the last truth bomb, but let's review it really quickly. And hopefully, it just sets the platform from where we can speak from. So, of course, the seesaw, you sit at the edge of the seesaw. That's why you go on a seesaw. You want to go on a ride. I take my kids on the seesaw all the time. And you don't sit in the middle. You sit at the edge because it's the edge that has the greater up and down. So, and what you want to do is sit opposite someone who is equal, to your weight. So it has equal ups and downs. And in duality, there is equal weight on everything, even though you can't see it. All right, you can't see it because you're looking through perception, and your perception is what's the word? It's shining light on things the way you want to see it, not the way it is. You are. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not coming to me, but it's your view through your perception is filtered, right? So you're like, no, there is no equal good. It's just all bad in these circumstances. In what I'm experiencing, it's bad. Like I'm experiencing being sad. That's bad. It's not good. Well, there is good that comes from the sadness. You're just only seeing it with your perception of not willing to experience the sadness, and therefore you're judging it as, this is bad, I don't want to feel sad. But there's actually nothing wrong with feeling sad. If you actually allow yourself to feel the sadness, the opposite or the balance of that comes out, and you free yourself from the sadness, and you experience whatever that is, which is to be free of the sadness. Now, you may then label that as, oh, I'm happy. But again, it's not happy either, because then with happiness also comes some sadness. And you're like, well, I don't know, when I'm happy, I'm not sad. There is equal sadness in happiness. You're just now addicted to seeing the happiness. So anyway, that's what the balance is. Like if it's, the reason you know what happiness is because you know what sadness is. You wouldn't know what happiness is unless you knew what sadness is. The reason you begin to experience love or know what love is because you know what rejection of love is, or the opposite of love. And you might say opposite of love is maybe fear or hate. It depends on which way you're looking at love. Again, when I'm talking about the real love, just to put this out there really quickly, that doesn't have an opposite. Okay, so we'll come back to that. Okay, but in duality, there's an opposite to everything, and it's equal. And in your perception, if it's not equal, it's because your perception is sometimes when we go riding the horses around Rome, if you've ever been around Rome, or you go on a horse and carriage and around the city somewhere or in the country, they put the things over the horses so they can't see what's out to the sides, and they can only see that's what's happening. That's what you've got, the blinkers on. And you can't see the complete picture. And it's not that you can't, it's you're not willing to, because then you can't make sense of it. So it's like no, this is only good. Like, I'm happy. There's no sadness in happiness. But again, right, without the other, you wouldn't be experiencing what you're experiencing. Without the other person sitting on the seesaw with equal weight, it wouldn't be going up and down. Therefore, you wouldn't be experiencing what there is to experience. I mean, Newton talks about this. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Like not some action. He says every action has an equal and opposite force. So every force has an equal and opposite force, opposite reaction to that force. Change that to every energy. Every energy, this is happiness, this is sad. It has an equal. Have you noticed the word equal? And opposite force opposing it. I mean, that's science for those who are like, well, what are you talking about? Well, there's science, right? That's Newton that talks about that. So this is not new. It's, and as you begin to wrap your mind around this, you start to gain this new level of emotional intelligence. And when you lack that emotional intelligence, unfortunately, all you're doing is reacting to the emotion. And you go up and down, right? And again, I'm saying to you, you don't need to. A mind that has transcended the balance, right, doesn't go up and down. The world still goes up and down, yes, because the world, our physical reality is part of the balance. It's in duality. Yes, it will always go up and down. And that's why people say life is a roller coaster and you go up and down. But your mind, like who you are, doesn't need to go up and down. And only when you have transcended them. When we talk about balance, I usually ask the audience that I'm speaking with in the WTF, I say, well, who here believes that balance is important? Of course, everyone's like, well, of course it is. I mean, I'm pretty sure Buddha or someone else or some personal development book or some spiritual book. I mean, everyone talks about balance. Yeah, hell yeah, balance is important. And so most people put their hand up and some people don't because they're looking at what's the trick question here? Like, of course, balance is important. So then I ask them questions. So do you believe that you came here to live in balance? And everyone's like, well, I guess if balance is important, yes, we came here to live in balance. And of course, that's when I tell them that, I believe balance is, part of the prison. And again, it's such a mind, like that's why it's called the WTF. They're like, what? But balance is a good thing. Why is it part of the prison? Well, because in every direction you go, in every experience, I mean, think about it. It has an equal and opposite force. So if you're going to experience happiness, you're going to have equal and opposite sadness. Like, boom. If you're if you're listening to this and not watching the visual, my mind just got blown. Like that's what happens with people's mind. Like think about that. I mean, these are things that no one taught me. I just pondered about that. Like what balance, I mean, don't get me wrong. Again, I'm not saying the balance is not important. Of course it is. But we didn't come here to find balance so we can live in it. It's important for you to find balance so you can transcend it. And you don't transcend the balance physically, you transcend it in your mind. Your mindset transcends. Your mindset changes, your view changes. You have a enormous amount of emotional intelligence and emotional capacity when you transcend the balance. And of course, in the WTF, if you remember, if it's in that version that you listen to anyway, in the WTF, I will talk about, well, balance is like, I mean, again, I just want to highlight, it is very important to find balance. Like, I'm not saying you're not here to live in balance. I mean, you need to find balance so you know where it is in order for you to transcend it. If you don't find balance in your life, if you don't bring balance into your life, you can't transcend it. Do you understand? And again, what I'm saying to you is this is your soul. This is your who you really are. Like, this is you as a drop realizing I'm not the drop, I'm the ocean. As Rumi says, you're not the drop in the ocean, you're the entire ocean in the drop. That right there is when you're transcending the balance. That's what's happening right there. So, of course, it's important for you to find balance, but finding balance is, and of course, what happens to you physically. Oh, yeah, this is what I was going to say. Like, again, I wanted to highlight this point that you don't transcend the balance physically. You're still born and you're still going to die. Like, that's one thing that's absolutely certain. Like, people don't know who we really are, where do we really go after we, die. No one really knows. It's not a fact. It's not a science. We don't know where we came from. We don't know why we're really here. These are the things that people need to grasp for themselves. No one can give you that answer but yourself. And that answer that you find in yourself is not something that you can share because it's not a fact. It's not a science. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty about it. It's, when you're doing this work, it's just, you just know. And no one can understand that knowing unless they know for themselves. So, again, I want to highlight that, it's not the physical that you transcend. It's in your own mind. You transcend. Again, you've seen the movie The Matrix. Of course, it's transcending the matrix. And of course, when you find balance, your life does become easier. It does become effortless. And that's the point some people get to, and they think, well, that's what it is. It's all about being balanced, living within my means. Okay, what are you saying? Living within my boundaries, living within my prison. And that's the great thing, like, it's like you found balance, and what you've done is you're still in the prison, but you know how some prisoners, you hear the story, like they're like big time prisoners and they get like a penthouse in their prison. You've seen movies around this, or these are not just movies, these are actually real stories. And I don't know who they are, Pablo or whoever those big time criminals have been in prison, but they get their own, they get women visiting them, they have their own TV, they got their own, like, they got a, they can order pizza. I don't know, I'm just making stuff up, right? But they've got their own penthouse, but they're still in the prison, right? And when people start to bring balance to their life gets easier, and they think, well, that's the point. No, you just got to the door. You found the door. You still need to knock, and you still need to walk through. And that, my friend, is transcending the balance. Now, why are we transcending the balance? Because love, the real love, it doesn't have an opposite. It's one. It's just one energy. How can that have an opposite? The moment you say it has an opposite and you describe that as hate or as fear, as rejection, or the moment that's duality, and what you got rejected from, and the hate or the love that you experience, that's all part of duality. That's half of the equation. It's one side of the coin that you're dancing with or fighting with. It's one side of the coin. That's why it is such a powerful talk that I share. And again, I'll remind you that there is a module that I shared, which is part of the coaching app, called When Love Becomes Real. That's what I'm talking about. So there is no opposite. You see, through our physical experience, you can't transcend the balance, right? You were born, you're gonna die. It's the one thing that we are all in alignment with. Doesn't matter what our religion is, doesn't matter what our belief around science is, it doesn't matter what country we grew up in, how much our financial circumstance. We all agree that the one thing that is absolute certain is that we will all die. Okay, and that's duality. But if you've transcended the balance, you've transcended the matrix, and you're in your mind, it's one. You know that you will never die. Yes, you leave this physical reality. You know that anyone that you've lost in the story and they've left their physical body never really dies. They're still here. I mean, how many of you how many of you have experienced losing a loved one, and they're no longer here for you to experience physically, but you still feel them. You still feel their presence. They don't really die. And unfortunately, most people don't get to this point of their life to actually transcend the balance. But that's what all this work is about. It's for you to balance your life, get some disciplines, get some, and those are the things that I work with clients. Get things in order. Balance is very important. But ultimately, when balance is found, the noise quietens. And like I said, some people think that's the point. No, you've got to the door. Knock, knock, knock. You know what the amazing thing is? You might knock and you might realize you were always inside. You thought it was on the other side of the door, and you might actually realize that you're knocking and you're actually inside. But yeah, that's wonderful, and to me, if you can transcend the balance, that's when you're now playing the game of life. And the balance, yes, the story will still be in balance, but it will move around you. I talk about this as the story bends around you. Most of us are fixated on bending ourselves, our emotions, our courage, our willingness. We're trying to bend ourselves around the story. It's like, I want that story, and you're bending and you're working so hard. You're giving up so much, you're sacrificing so you can have that story. And what I'm saying to you is that when you have transcended you have equilibrated is the word I'm looking for. Your own mind. You've neutralized your own emotions. The noise is quietened. You can feel the door. And once you've transcended the balance, in other words, now what does that mean? It means you're living with the real you. You have become the greatest version of yourself that can exist in this time and space. You are now what I like to refer as the one. You've seen the movie The Matrix? The one, Neo was the one. What's the one? It means one mind. It means one energy. It means you move with the real feeling. That story around you that is in balance bends around you. That's why life is beautiful. But you must first get there, right? And you know what? I thought I was going to talk about something else today, but obviously this is what's coming out. And I wanted to talk about the practicality of the balance, which I may just have to do that in the next episode, because that's not what came out today. But I hope you can really, feel the space that these words are coming from. Because Of course, I talk about that in the WTF, and I just want to really highlight that. If you have listened to this while you're walking and you haven't been present, start again. It's only 30 minutes long. Start again and listen. Listen not to the words that are being spoken. And if you're watching or listening this to an audio, watch the video. If you're listening to the audio, close your eyes and listen to the audio. And listen not to the words that are being spoken here. Please do it for yourself and listen to the space where these words are being formed from. Do that for yourself because you deserve it. You deserve to know that version of yourself. It's so painful to not live with that version, the greatest version of you. It's painful because being dumped by the wave, it hurts. And if you can't comprehend the balance, it's a jungle out there. Some people ride the waves, some people get dumped by the waves. So yes, ask yourself the question. I often leave people with this contemplation at the end of the WTF. You have duality, you have oneness. One is only an appearance. One is the truth. You either really who you are is an infinite being, and if that's true, you're only pretending to be a limited being. All your limitations are pretend. And your mind's going, well, they're not. I've got lots of limitations and they're not. Well, then the oneness that you often feel for yourself, that ain't real then. They both don't. That's why I was saying to you, don't make this into duality, right? Or some people call it the illusion, whatever you like, duality and then oneness. Then that's what people do when I'm sharing this. They make this into two different things. It's not two, it's one. And one is an appearance, just like the moon at nighttime. Think about that full moon. It appears that it is really bright. And there's so much light coming from the moon, like the moon is like a sun. Well, that's not true. It appears that way. And it's meant to appear that way. But the truth is, the sun is shining its light onto the moon. So the power is actually coming from the sun. In this case, you are the sun in that metaphor. And that is a metaphor, by the way, in case you're going to try to fit that into some other equation. Okay? The power is you, but not you as this physical body, because this physical body is the appearance, just like the moon is. This physical body is in balance. It's within the physical realm. So I don't know if that went over your head. I wasn't expecting to do a deep conversation, and I know as I'm delivering these truth bumps, as we go deeper into more modules, I know I'm going to take the conversation deeper. And I guess that was one that is probably starting that. I will continue this conversation. I will pick this up next session because I would love to give you the practical element of the balance. Like, how do you surf the wave and not get dumped by it? How do you neutralize, equilibrate this two that is in your mind? Let the two be out there. It's always there. But in your mind, there can't be two. You can't have two voices in your mind. Not anymore. There can only be one voice. one, the real voice. But in order for that to happen, you got to transcend the balance, transcend the human mind, the drop of the ocean. So I really would love for you to take this away and for you to listen to this again and really feel, when I say listen to the space where the words are forming from. If you don't comprehend what that actually means, just feel it. Don't think about what's been shared. Don't let your mind pick up what I've just said. Just let it float in your heart. Don't try to understand it. Feel it. And somewhere in there, it drops in for you and it becomes a knowing. And you know what is true because you felt it, not because someone is telling you what is true. That's the point. Please do that as your homework. Turn this off again. You got half an hour. That's all it is. It's a half an hour truth bomb. Truth bomb. This one is a bomb, isn't it? It's not a bomb. This one's a truth bomb. But half an hour. If it's a video, be very present. I'm very present. I'm talking to you. Be very present with me. Just watch the video. If it's an audio, in fact, I would do it both ways. I don't even know if we share this in an audio. But by the time you get this, you'll probably be contacting my office going, can I get an audio version? He said there's an audio version. But I'd love for you to, well, it's easy to turn this into an audio. Just put the phone down and put your earpods in, your headphones, and just listen. Do that 2 versions. Do that for yourself. 1, watch with me. Be present. No distractions for half an hour. Feel what's been shared. 2, put your phone down and listen. Hear. Feel. And then I'll continue the more practical version of what I wanted to share. But obviously I need to share this first. So I'll see you guys next week in our next Truth Bomb.